My name is Mark Lopshire, and I'm the Director for Business Plus. We are a nonprofit economic development organization that supports Southern Idaho. We are launching campaign 2013 to 2015 with the goal of partnering with 250 businesses throughout Southern Idaho to raise $1 million that we are going to use to incent new companies to come here to Southern Idaho. That means new jobs for the region. It means new customers for you. And what I'd like to do is invite you today to watch this video, and in turn I would like to introduce Chris Pruitt, General Manager for KMVT and the Fox News Network here in Southern Idaho, and he is going to be our campaign chairman over the next couple of months with the goal of reaching out to you in discussions to bring you on board as an investor with Business Plus. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Chris. Chris, hey, I appreciate you being here this morning as the General Manager for KMVT. You've always supported our local nonprofit called Business Plus. And I just really want to thank you and your staff and everything that you do here for our community. And really kind of today focus on Business Plus and our campaign 2013 to 2015. We're launching this fundraising campaign. It's a capital campaign for our nonprofit that our goal is to partner with 250 small, medium, large-sized businesses, private investors essentially, and raise $1 million over the next 3 years in order for us to in turn go out there and help bring in new businesses. We're a 25-year-old nonprofit now. We've raised $4 million. We brought in 20 different companies throughout the region, and we brought in 2,000 jobs as a result of that. Right. And so I just want to thank you for being our campaign chair this year. And kind of, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, thank you, first of all, Mark. I guess just to back up a little bit here is I think it is most important and completely critical that we do get right on the fundraising efforts whenever it comes to Business Plus. As I think about Business Plus, and I think about how Business Plus affects my business here as a TV station, I really can't find any better way that I could spend, say, a month of my time than to be out there helping out Business Plus. You know, as we've talked about before, one of the main things that Business Plus does is it funds CEDO. CEDO is our arm. I mean, that's our marketing arm out there in the, you know, to everybody in the United States. Whenever somebody's looking at perhaps coming here and doing business here in the here in our community, one of the first contacts that they'll have will be with CEDO. So we absolutely, it's critical that we must fund that organization.
And you're right. You're right. You know, the Southern Idaho Economic Development Organization is only 10 years old. Right. However, as a result of Jan Rogers and her efforts and her team's efforts, they brought in just recently Chobani. Right. They were one of the lead contacts in bringing them in. While Chobani is looking at going to northern Nevada, CEDO and the rest of the communities in Southern Idaho are saying, no, you need to come to Southern Idaho. We have a better workforce. We have better opportunities. We have just an amazing infrastructure here for you. And from Business Plus and CEDO's perspective, we don't care whether they go to Jerome or Twin Falls or Burley. Our only care is that they come to Southern Idaho as opposed to going to northern Nevada. And so you're right on about that. One of the 8 counties that we serve, that is all that we care about, just as long as they land here. You know, regardless whether it's Jerome, Burley, we even had one out in Glens Ferry, I believe. Yep. A opportunity out there. Regardless where they go, we just want to make sure that they come here, because the thing we have to keep in mind is we do have an economy here that lends itself to being, well, I won't use the word remote, but maybe I will. Yeah. Yeah. If from Stanley to Jackpot to Malta to Mountain Home, they're coming here to do business. They're coming to this area to transact business, and we need to make sure that
that we're ready from a retail perspective, which we are. But then on the flip side of that is that's what grows economy is jobs. All jobs comes from investment. And we have to continue. If we're going to grow, we have to make sure that that investment continues to flow into our market. We were talking here just a little bit earlier. My employee is your customer.
That's right.
It could not be more true than that. If we want to continue the growth that we need to have in order to continue to compete, and just in order for our communities to continue to function in the way that we want them to, we have to be very vigilant, to always be on the lookout to attracting new businesses to our area. And quite frankly, that's CEDO's main job, is to be that point of contact to say, come talk to me. I'll let you know the lay of the land. I'll hook you up with the people that you need to be hooked up with, so that we can put our best foot forward every time with every opportunity that comes down the pipe.
Well, and you're right on. And it is, in addition to that, not only do we fund CEDO, but we've got a history of funding these companies directly.
Right.
That we will write them a check for every one employee. We write them a check for, we'll call it $500.
Right.
So they bring in 100 employees, and that's a significant incentive for them to come here. And so we fund a lot of that, and we provide those incentives from a Business Plus perspective. And you take a look at the downstream effects of that. Hilux Poly over in Jerome, or Right Stuff Foods, or Dot Foods, Dutchman down in Burley. The great story about Kodiak being down in Hayburn, or even the Les Schwab recapping facility there in Rupert. We have provided incentives to each of those companies to come here. And now we get those employees here. Not only do they hire locally, sometimes management comes in from out of state or out of area, and they in turn buy houses, they rent houses, they buy gas every day, they buy milk. And so who provides all of those things? There are downstream effects on having all of that product brought in as well, whether it's from a producer or Walmart shelves, or downtown at someplace else, that we help fund that downstream effect. So not only does Business Plus provide $50,000 as an incentive for a company to come here with 50 new employees, the downstream effects are huge when that happens.
Right.
And it's not just happening in manufacturing. We continually talk about Chobani. Look at Dell. We provided about $500,000 in incentive funds to Dell for that time period they were here. Look at what that did to our economy. Not only did we partner with College of Southern Idaho.
Right.
They did a lot of the training. We moved into an old abandoned Albertsons building. So we took an abandoned building and helped that. So all of the construction costs that went into something like that. And then the employees as well. And all of the hamburgers they bought down there, they shopped at the mall. And our economy has changed significantly. We're no longer just a Twin Falls or Jerome or Burley economy. Nowadays, our employees may live in Jerome, they might work in Burley, and they may shop in Twin.
Right.
Or Hagerman or someplace else. We are more of a regional economy, and we really need to focus on something like that.
Absolutely. And whenever I look at we were talking earlier about the dollar. Look, let's take, for instance, hit my mic, sorry about that. Let's take, for instance, the dollars that we invested from our TV station perspective. First of all, the past few years have been very, very hard on all of the businesses.
It's a struggle.
Locally.
It's been a struggle.
We're a bit bruised, we're a bit battered, but I do know this: if you're still around today, you're one tough cookie because you weathered the storm, and so that means that you have a viable business. You're in it to win it, as they say it, and those of us who are still here, we're doing great, and things are beginning to come back. Whenever I look at the investment that we make in Business Plus, I look at it as a direct investment back into our business whenever I do that. I don't see that as an expense or something in that nature. I do look at it as an investment. I know, and of course, you know, with our business, we're a bit further down the line, if you will, from being able to directly benefit from the investment into Business Plus. But I know that it will pay off. I know that if you take, you know, the funding that we provide here from our station, you aggregate it with funding from other people, and you know what? Some people may give big dollars. Some people may give small dollars or fewer dollars, but it all adds up at the end of the day. Whenever we aggregate those dollars, and then we put those dollars to work, bringing jobs or creating jobs here in our area, I know that will benefit my business down the road. I was talking to a person who runs a manufacturing facility here, for instance, and they're like, well, you know, I'm starting to have some problems finding employees right now. Why should I want to be a part of bringing more, you know, employers here that could potentially take from the employee base that I have, and I look at that as being a simplistic question almost, because I say, well, here's the deal. Whenever you originally looked to locate your business here, weren't you looking for a thriving community? Weren't you looking for, wasn't quality of place and quality of life things that came into play to make your decision? Don't you want this community to thrive? If it does, won't that bring even more people into the economy to fill these jobs? Won't that raise the tide on all the ships? Won't that maybe even improve the quality of the worker that we have in our workplace? I look at all of those factors, and there's hardly anyone out there that I could see that would not benefit from being a part of Business Plus. Even the agriculture community. We've talked about the agriculture community out there. They a whole lot of milk is going to run through the Chobani plant out here. The agriculture community should be a big part, and they should be jumping on board to Business Plus. I know they may feel like, okay, well, for instance, I have a dairy, or perhaps I'm, you know, growing corn for silage or something. Whatever, you should be a big part of it, because you will benefit from the investment down the road.
Well, and exactly that. So we take a look at and it's a great case study that you brought up. If we take a look at a little box of yogurt, we take a look at the trucks, the transportation companies that got it to market. We take a look at Chobani, the electricity it uses, the gas that it uses, the employees that are paid, the bank accounts that are opened with that, you know, so at a First Federal or a D.L. Evans or a Zions Bank. We take a look at the home that is bought through, say, Prudential, and these are all folks that have supported Business Plus. We take a look at that one CPA, that one-man CPA shop that at Capricorn, who supports us in financial advice. So it's not just big businesses that support us, but it can be a medium and a small business as well. And then we look at the transportation that brings that milk to Chobani, those trucks. We take a look at the boxes that are made down at Boise Cascade. Boise Cascade stood up a whole new product line to support Chobani. We take a look at the additional feed, the additional hay to feed the cows for the milk that's going to be transported to market. We take a look at the seeds, the hay seeds and the different things that they can do that are fed to that grow the grain, grow the hay, grow the corn, that bring that milk and that little container of yogurt to your table. And so we take a look at that entire process and how we can support and provide financial assistance and support at each of those levels. So the downstream effects are huge on any new job, any new company that Business Plus helps bring into the area. And that goes, like I said, to the Right Stuff Foods, to the Hilux Polys. You know, there's downstream effects in all of these different areas. And it's not just manufacturers. It's like we covered the Dells. It's clean. It can be any call centers that we bring into the area. And like I said, we don't care where it goes, we just want it to come to Southern Idaho.
Absolutely. And kind of getting back to sort of where we started, the first, we shore up CEDO, we create these additional funds to help bring other people in. I run through the processes in my mind, if you will, of, how does, say for instance, the trucking company in Glens Ferry, can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but whenever they came to town, how does that benefit me? And again, they put people to work out there in that big refrigeration area that they have. They put people to work. Those people, they perhaps shop locally, and maybe they did some business there in Glens Ferry, which helped that economy, which then those folks at that point right there, they came over to Twin to buy groceries. That grocery store clerk then perhaps went over to deposited her check in the bank over here at one of the local banking institutions. They then put that money back to work. That deposit back to work in the community in the form of investment, in the form of loans. For that person to go buy a car, that person that bought a car then, went and, they go to the restaurants here, they buy shoes at the mall, they do all the things, and that's what creates an economy. And that's what we have to make sure that people know. We are in a global situation now, but all economies are created locally, and that's where we should get the most horsepower from, and that's why it's so important for us to support Business Plus and to be on board and to make the investment. Again, I look down the line at the investment, say for instance that any size business can make, and although it may not be a direct investment back into your company, rest assured that it is an indirect investment, and those dollars will come back. Those dollars will come back to you eventually at some point.
So let's say I come to you, you're a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner. Let's say you sell cars or sell hamburgers, and I approach you and say, hey, I would like you to be a partner with us, one of these 250 investors, someplace in Southern Idaho. Let's say you're in Burley, and I'll ask you for $500 a year, $1,000 a year for the next 3 years, a 3-year commitment. And what would those objections to be? You might say, gosh, Mark, I don't see this directly benefiting me, or what objections might a small business have?
Well, first of all, I think you can, what do they say, you can't get blood out of a turnip. So a person has to be in a situation where they can make an investment. We certainly don't need to go to the extremes of give till it hurts or something here, because we can aggregate this all together. It is a commitment. It's almost like you say a statement of faith in your local organization. Some of the objections that may be out there would be things like, I'm in Burley. How's this going to benefit me? Because isn't this kind of a Twin Falls thing? I think that's a So how would you deal with that?
Well, and this isn't a Twin Falls thing. If we take a look at the history of Business Plus and those companies that we have funded, and as a result of CEDO's efforts, the majority of businesses aren't in Twin Falls. They are in Burley and they are in Jerome. We just happen to have, the latest one in Chobani. And in fact, some local Twin Falls business owners have said, gosh, we're sending all the money to Burley. And so that's really not, equitable. We have all of these different companies coming to the region, and that's what we have. We have a regional economy now, and for us to grow, I don't care whether you're at Watkins Distribution or Lynch Oil or Mr. Gas or over here at Canyon Crest, and those are all great investors in Business Plus. My concern is that we can bring in the next company that has 25, 50, or 100 employees to the region to help give back to these communities. And one of the indirect pieces of this is when we come in and bring in, say, another 100 employees, they help support the tax base in those counties, in those cities, in those school districts. And so we have this other piece that is indirect to the direct funding that we provide as an incentive to these companies, is we do support our public services as a result of these new jobs. And so it's job creation. And so from my perspective is, how can you not want to?
Well, and that leads directly into another objection that I think is out there is why is this my responsibility?
Yeah.
You know, it's and that's a tough one. I mean, I'm going on my 4th year in Idaho, and originally from Texas, and you know, back there we have quarter-cent sales tax coming out the ears that go into economic development, and I mean, there's very bright lines how that money can be spent, but there's millions and millions of dollars. I mean, back there, whenever an economic development deal is made in Texas, they sit down to the table and they have whole organizations there ready to present. It's quite extravagant. They have the dollars to do that.
Right.
That's what we're competing against.
And those are government dollars.
Those are government dollars right there. They just go about collecting those dollars in a little different way. Although their dollar collection efforts are mandatory.
That's right.
Ours are voluntary.
That's right.
But what we have to do is, you say, well, all right, well, that's Texas. We're in Idaho. Well, that's what we're competing against.
That's right.
Those are the same people sitting across the table from us whenever we get ready to make a deal, and we have to keep that in mind. And it gets back to, because I asked myself the same question. I remember whenever I first came here and I saw that line on our budget, I'm like, what is this Business Plus thing? Why is that my responsibility? Well, it's because that is the only funding arm, if you will, that we have in place here in order to be able to attract jobs to our area.
So I'm going to go back to the state of Texas. Why in the world would Dell, who's in Austin, Texas, want to open up a major 500-seat call center in Idaho? And it's because of our workforce. It's because of our values. It's because we have an amazing group of people here in southern Idaho, and we can bring in folks from Ada County or over in Pocatello, and they want to come here because this is a great quality of life. Our quality of life here is, we've got outdoors, you know, whether you're going skiing on the weekends or hunting in the fall or fishing in the summer or hiking or mountain biking or running. Our quality of life here in southern Idaho has something very unique, as opposed to Austin, which is a fairly large city. You've got the freeway, you've got the traffic, and it's not that same quality of life. If you take a look at, if you stand on the back deck of on the canyons, it's absolutely amazing. And people look at that and say, this is one of the reasons that I'm here. And so our quality of life has something significant. And in addition to that, we have that private investment. The private investment actually does help incent other companies to come here. If you take a look at moving to Texas or Nevada or Idaho, the governments will, you know, step up in Texas and Nevada. However, it's the private businesses, the private investors, all the way from the mom and pop shops to the large companies that help incent through Business Plus to bring you here. So which do you want? Do you want the government helping you, or do you want private investors to help you?
Well, and you think back, it was interesting that last week I was having lunch with Mayor Shine, and from over in Jerome. We were sitting there talking, and he brought up something I think a lot of us forget, and that is that when these communities were started, all these communities were started with private investment. You think back to the very beginning days. There were people who came here and settled, and then in order to grow and to thrive, they had to make private investment into these communities. That's all we're talking about here. Is instead of doing that directly as just investing in your own business, you're saying, you know, I want to make an investment in the community.
Very good.
And that's what is absolutely critical and what's absolutely needed right now. I mean, as we're looking around, we're talking about finding about 250 businesses out there. Some of them have been past Business Plus members before. We're talking about getting those people to come back to the table and say, you know what, we're in a good time. We're on a projected path for prosperity in the future. I believe in the future, and I want to make a statement of faith, if you will, back into my own community. And I'm going to do that in the way of providing some funds.
Well, and we need to do those investments now, and that's why we've launched campaign 2013 to 2015. We want those commitments now because it's going to take 24 to 36 months to get that next company in, whether it's a base hit with 50 employees or a home run with 400 employees. We need to make those investments now. We need to start that process now, and we need to go out to the East Coast or to Texas and say, gosh, we've got some amazing opportunities in southern Idaho, and we need to be able to incent them. And the fact that Business Plus is a nonprofit, I think carries weight as well. From a nonprofit standpoint, these are tax-deductible additions, donations, investments, and I think that's going to carry a lot of weight even back to our own financial planners and things like that. So it's never too late either, and we just want to get them on in the next 30, 60, 90 days.
Right, and so here over the next month or so, probably quite a few of you you'll be hearing from me. I'll give you a call, and I'd like to come in, have a quick meeting, just go over a little bit of information about Business Plus, answer any information, any questions you may have about the Southern Idaho Economic Development Organization, and then ask you to make a donation to an investment in our community.
And really, it's an investment for your future and an investment in our community at the same time.
Absolutely. Without a doubt, I know that we can get this done, and without a doubt also know if we don't do it, well then who's going to do it?
That's right.
It's up to us to protect and to grow our own local economies, and that's what.
If we don't do it, the great state of Texas will.
Hey, whenever it comes to economic development, I had a CEO of our economic development organization in Midland, Texas. He said it best. He says, whenever it comes to economic development, these balls, they don't get lost; they just get fumbled.
Yeah, that's
because somebody picks them up.
That's right. And I just want to thank you for your time today. Again, my name is Mark, and I'm with Business Plus, and I want to thank Chris for his time today and in the months to come. In particular, I'd like to thank you for your time. And if you have questions about Business Plus or the Southern Idaho Economic Development Organization or our strategy and all of us going forward, or even if you want to volunteer to be a part of this campaign, I'd like you to give me a call at 208-948-9956 or drop me an email at mlopshire@gmail.com. And of course, you could probably get a hold of one of our board members, Chris Pruitt, our general manager, Jim Lynch at Lynch Oil and Mr. Gas in Burley, Mike Schutz over at Hilux Poly in Jerome, or Mitch Watkins here in Twin Falls over at Watkins Distribution. Please feel free to contact any of us, and we'd be more than happy to come out and talk with you. Thank you very much.